Hi, my name is Georgia Devenish and I will be presenting my research proposal for AFNR5904, a component of the capstone project for the Masters of Agriculture and Environment at the University of Sydney. The project title is Economic Analysis of Native Grain Production in the Boulogne Shire of Queensland. I will be the principal researcher and I'll be assisted by AFNR Supervisor Dr. Shauna Phillips. The aim of this project is to explore the economic viability of native grains production in the Boulogne Shire of Queensland. This will be done by incorporating native grains into a dry land, broadacre mixed farming system and then analysing and comparing the gross margins of different farming activities. The representative farm, as stated, is located in the Boulogne Shire, a municipality of southwest Queensland. This is a semi-arid subtropical region which has been challenged by declining soil quality and winter rainfall. Past research has found that the region faces a severe extent of drought risk and a long-term declining trend in soil quality under continuous cultivation and cereal cropping. I see the Boulogne Shire as having the potential to greatly benefit from the adoption of native grains production, and ultimately this project seeks to prove that. Significant research efforts to date have explored the drought tolerance and regenerative nature of native grasses, as well as their adaptability to marginal environments. As such, native grains presents an opportunity for farmers not only to diversify production, but alleviate land management challenges and reduce their exposure to climate change. The inception of this project and the support that it has received from the University of Sydney is reflective of recent efforts to centralise, focus and extend research on native grains in Australia. Undoubtedly, there is scope to do so, particularly in the field of economics, when compared with the depth and breadth of research available internationally. Critically for this proposal, achieving a better understanding of the economically prohibitive factors and the sources of volatility limiting native grains' competitiveness against cereal cropping and other traditional forms of agriculture in farm planning has been identified as a priority area for future research. A first step in filling the gap in the farm level analysis of the economic viability of native grains was undertaken by Dr. Shauna Phillips in 2021. This research involved the development of a representative farm to conduct a gross margin analysis of a farm plan including native grains in the Tablelands region of New South Wales. My research project seeks to build on this approach to economic analysis with the development of a representative farm in the Boulogne Shire. The importance of this project is first and foremost to show that native grains can be an economically viable farm activity. If this eventuates, this will lead to increased adoption of native grains, leading to an improvement in the sustainability of both businesses and the biosphere in the Boulogne Shire. This research is also important because the model will provide risk-adjusted information in the form of a farm planning guide for producers who are facing increasingly difficult production conditions. The key aims of the project are as follows. The primary aim is to explore the potential for native grains to form part of the optimal farm plan for a representative farm in the Boulogne Shire of Queensland. This project also seeks to investigate how incorporating risk into the model impacts the optimal farm mix and then analyse the key determining factors impacting the risk profile of producing native grains. Building on the overarching aims of the project, the hypothesis for this research is that it is expected that native grains will form part of the optimal farm plan due to its ability to vertically stack outputs and cope with the soil, environmental, and climatic conditions of the region. The viability of native grains will be reduced by the transition costs, however, which form a barrier to entry, and the risk of price variability due to market failure. Despite these challenges, native grains improve economic performance of marginal land. Ultimately, this will enhance options for decision makers who seek to be both environmentally and economically sustainable. So moving on now to the research plan. Linear programming and quadratic programming will be utilised for the microeconomic modelling. This modelling comes under the theoretical framework of production economics. Linear programming will determine the optimal farm plan by optimizing gross margin for a given set of objectives, activities, resource supplies, and constraints. Quadratic programming will then be built into this model to generate a mean variance efficient set of farm plans for a given level of income. Using quadratic programming represents an extension on the current literature in the field of economic analysis of native grain production and expands on the inclusion of risk more broadly in linear programs for farm planning. Key benefits include the fact that linear programming provides important additional information, including shadow costs and prices and constraint slacks. Quadratic programming has the advantage of its compatibility with linear programming, as well as the ease in which it may be applied. The relatively simple design of this model will ensure that the project will be completed in a timely and successful manner. While there are limitations to quadratic programming and linear programming, for example, the assumption of standard seasonal conditions for linear programming and preferences solely based on income for quadratic programming, these are outweighed by the benefits of using this research methodology and modelling to assess the economic viability of native grains production. Further building on the research plan, in terms of data collection, determination of size, enterprise mix, and resource constraints for the representative farm will require significant data inputs. Starting first with data collection. Key sources of information will include government data, peer-reviewed journal articles, and industry data sources. Where limited information exists, engagement with key regional, industry, and scientific stakeholders will also provide data. Moving on to resource requirements. A computer and the Microsoft Excel program are critical for this project. The linear programming model will use the Solver platform in Excel for optimization and sensitivity analysis. In terms of data analysis, key components include creating variations of the model to see how changes to constraints, costs, and resource availability change the optimal farm plan. The quadratic programming model will investigate how risk impacts farm activities chosen as part of the optimal farm plan. In terms of ethical considerations, an important consideration for this project is that research into native grains needs to be respectful and inclusive of Indigenous Australians. Acknowledgement of Indigenous Australians' contribution to knowledge in the native grains industry needs to be addressed and represented in the research project. Ultimately, this research project should lead to the following outcomes. Firstly, native grain production will form part of the optimal farm plan for the representative farm in the Balonne Shire, albeit challenged by transition costs and market failure. For the industry, this outcome can help explain what is hampering conversion to native grain production and direct resources towards where extension and future research efforts would have the most effect. The second expected outcome is that there will be a high level of risk attached to native grain production due to long establishment times, market failure, and low levels of management knowledge. If native grains are to be adopted in farm planning, management knowledge and understanding of the markets will be key to success. For the community, this outcome will lead to better decision-making capabilities and thus more sustainable businesses when faced with market volatility and climate change. The following timeline establishes key milestones for the experimental and analytical components of the research project. The timeline incorporates 5 main areas of workflow: preparation, modelling, analysis, verification, and writing. The first 3 stages include the key activities which cover majority of the time period. Preparation is a key component in that work completed in this phase will underpin the success of the project and its outcomes. All modelling will be completed by week 5, after which I've left a 3-week period to analyse the farm plan and conduct sensitivity analysis. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to receiving your forthcoming questions on my research proposal. Please find below a list of the sources referenced in my presentation.